Well, welcome, everybody. And Michellie, welcome to the Escape From Alcatraz Triathlon Women's Initiative for 2021. Little bit of a background on her. 8-time Escape winner in Sydney, her hometown. A lot of pressure that day, I'm sure. Came up with the silver medal. And then in 06, years before saying, I'll never do that race, wins Ironman Hawaii, 06. Born in September, like me, except I was in 64, you're in 69. You're a twin, and you've done it all. The short course stuff, the sprint stuff, the half Ironman, the Ironman Escape, you dominated. But not only that, you mustered up what it takes to be a Paralympian guide for K2, the great Katie Kelly, and you gave me that gold medal to shake. You said, hey, check it out. The gold medal, it makes noise like a sand dollar, and that was so cool to touch that medal, a piece of history that you helped a dream create. And, we'll go on and on about you and all that in a little bit. But with us, Michellie Jones, go ahead and tell us your name, home base, the years you've won Escape, and your motto. And then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I am Michellie Jones. I've actually won the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon a lot of times, and that is 8. I haven't lost count yet. I grew up just outside of Sydney, Australia, and I now live in San Diego. I sort of call this my home base, and I still race, even though I'm a retired professional. I still compete at the age group level as well.
What's your motto? You got one?
Yes, of course I have a motto. I'm live it, believe it, dream it. I have a good story actually. When I was doing my first Ironman Hawaii, the World Championships, I had dreamt that I came second the night before, and you know what? I got second. I was like,
yep.
Oh, I want to dream that I won. But the following year I did won. So, I do believe that if you work hard and you live it, you will dream it and believe it.
Yep. Pray it into existence, dream it into existence. What was your first experience with the Escape, your first year?
Well, for me, once they sort of shortened the run a little bit, that's
you can thank Welty for that.
Yeah, because I came from a short course background, and running 18 miles is very different from running 6 miles. And then they sort of put it up to 10 miles. And now traditionally it's gone back down to the 8 miles. So
very good.
Basically it was I always wanted to do the Escape from Alcatraz, but 18 miles was just not something that I did as an Olympic distance athlete. So as soon as they dropped that down, I put my hand up. I go, yes, please. This is my type of race now. Even though it was a longer swim, a shorter bike, and still a 10-mile run, I'm definitely it was, I just heard so many great stories about Alcatraz and the swim, and then how technical and hilly the bike is, and then how technical and hilly the run is. So there was so many great dynamics that, I just wanted to get in there and be a part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Your first preparation for Alcatraz, knowing what you'd seen on TV and heard from your fellow athletes.
No, I think that the most daunting thing is knowing that you didn't really know what you were going to expect to encounter, because, they say the swim is around 1.2 miles, but, depending on the currents, it could be a 20-something swim. It could be a 40-something swim. So, and then, how cold the water is, that can have an effect on how you feel when you get on the bike. And, you never know with San Fran what the weather's going to be like, if it's going to be these beautiful sunny skies or it's going to be a little bit cold. So, there's sort of things that, you don't know what to expect until you wake up on the day.
What place did you get that first year?
I won.
There you go. And you kept winning, but you got second one year. You had a few battles with Barb Lindquist. And tell us about the year you got second.
That was actually not with Barb Lindquist. It was actually with Sue Latshaw.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she just had a fantastic day that day. And, she was the better athlete on the day. And, sometimes it's nice to get your butt kicked, because then the following year I'm this is my race, I'm taking it back. And that's what happened.
Talk about Barb Lindquist. You really had some back and forth with her, and she gave it her all to beat you, and she never did. Talk about Barb.
Yeah, Barb was, a class act and like a fantastic athlete. I mean, she was one of those athletes that was already a fantastic athlete in swimming. She was at the top of her game in swimming. She was the top of the top. She just missed out on the Olympics. So, they're the type of athletes that, we were racing with, but, athletes that, didn't particularly come for a triathlon background. I'd been racing triathlon since I was 18. Barb comes in a little bit later after her swimming career. And, she made us like sit up and take notice. Hey, now the real swimmers are in the race. We better make sure that, we can bike and run and like up our swimming as well, because, she had some great runs, although, she was a swimmer and she worked really hard. So you can never count her out because, her swimming and her biking and her running talent just kept improving.
Yeah, she laid it out there. I encourage anybody to do a YouTube search on Alcatraz in the mid-90s and watch Barb try to chase down MJ. And boy, she gave it her all, but she just never did. What's your favorite part of the race? You've already spoken so well as an ambassador for years about this race, especially in the last few minutes. But talk about your favorite part of the race. Is it the swim, the bike, the run, or what do you think?
I think it's the anticipation of being on the boat, that you're with all the athletes and, you feel the nervous energy, and it's like everyone's sort of like trying to burn off a little nervous energy. So there's a lot of joking, but then there's some seriousness. And then it's like, it's just this fun environment that you don't get because, you're crowded. Everyone's on the boat together and there's so much interaction. And I think that's my favorite part. So definitely the boat ride. It's like the scariest part, but it's the most fun part.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, with wave starts and timing being different now, it is rare to have such a concentration of energy and athletes. That boat is flat bottom. It doesn't draw a lot of water like a tugboat, and it's aluminum. And when we light off those diesels that only are lit off 50 times a year because it's so expensive to light up those engines, that vessel is the largest passenger vessel on the West Coast. And yeah, it's almost like that.
And how cool is it that you get to jump off a boat to start a triathlon? That is unique in itself. Yeah. And it's like everyone's like, well, what do you do when you jump off? I'm like, you just go. It's once you're in the water, it's like, okay, let's go.
What year was particularly challenging, and how did you persevere? Whether it was the year that Sue won, or was there a time that you were in third or fourth and you did get that win? What was your toughest challenge of all the races?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I think the one that sort of like I tell a lot of people is the one actually where I actually ended up crashing my bike and I ended up in the hospital, and the doctor's like, what do you mean she was swimming in the bay? What do you mean she was riding her bike in her swimsuit? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's such a good story, right? The doctor's like, what? You did what? And you did this? And you did it in a swimsuit? I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, just one of those things, it's part of the sport, it happens. You do crash, unfortunately. And it was on the safest part of the course. It was around Golden Gate Park. So just one of those things that happen. So that's always one story that I always tell.
So you won 8 times. When you were in your third and your fourth and your fifth win, did the continuation of your winning add pressure? What were your thoughts on that on the 6th, 7th, 8th start?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, everyone's going to ask you, oh, Michellie, you're going to win again. Oh, this is so easy for you. And you're like, I've still got to swim, bike, and run and face like Alcatraz. So for me, more it was like, I would get confidence in the fact that, like, if you look at my career, it's like if I won the race previous, there was a good chance that I would win it again. I mean, the races that I did year and year and year and year over and over again, it's like, I had like a good consistent history. So that was always in my favor. This course suits me. For some reason, whoever designed the course, it was like MJ written all over it. And I think because it has a bit of everything in it, it's just short enough, but just long enough to really challenge you. So, I mean, it's challenged me in so many ways, you know, crashing, having mechanicals, you know, having athletes like be ahead of me. And I'm like, my motto was always like, I want to get to the sand ladder before anyone else. That was my race plan. It didn't matter how far behind I was. I wanted to get to the sand ladder before anyone else. And apparently most of the time that happened.
Talk about the sand ladder and, you know, what that means to the race.
Well, you know, it's hard because you've just come off the sand. You've been running in deep sand. You're well and truly into the race. And I've seen people do all sorts of stuff up there. I've seen people walk up it. I've seen people run up it. I mean, myself, I used to use the little ropes to get yourself up. But my goal was always, and this is a tip that I can give to everyone, don't get your heart rate so elevated when you get to the top that you've got nothing left. Because when you get to the top, you've still got more of a climb that you've actually got to start running.
Yeah, half mile.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I never wanted to be behind anyone, because I know how tough that next part of the run is to make up any ground if you've absolutely smashed yourself going up the sand ladder. So that's what I tried to do, get my heart rate down a little bit, but it's hard because, you know, there's sand, there's steps, and it's steep. So you get the three things that make your heart rate skyrocket are right there.
Well, see, the coaching is coming out right now for you.
Yeah, so that's, you know, just part of it, you know, being smart about it. Yeah, embrace it and know it's going to hurt, but like also know it doesn't finish when you get to the top. Save a little bit for the rest of the race.
Very good information, because it is true. You do have a half mile climb still after the sand ladder. So that was some great information you just gave out. Continuing on that theme, if a first timer is listening, for the swim, for the bike, for the run, just a few little nuggets, first timer, physical and mental.
You know, I think for the swim, the biggest thing is, you know, when you first jump in the water, you're going to hyperventilate a little bit. And, you know, that can throw people off. So it's one of those things that, you know, just take it a little bit easier. Get used to how cold that water is. You know, even getting in the water the day before can help you acclimatize. You know, even before you get in, if you've got a little water, splash your face with a little bit of water. You know, those sort of things will help get the core temperature used to what you're about to do. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a pro or if you're a first timer. When you jump in that water, it's always a shock. And it's like understanding that and being aware of it. I think that's the number one tip that I can give someone, you know. And, you know, you have to practice swimming in cold water. I mean, these days, you know, you can wear booties. You know, it makes it a little easier. You can wear 2 swim caps. You can wear the neoprene cap as well. So it's a little bit easier. I wouldn't say people have gotten softer, but in the good old days, you weren't allowed to have that. Now I'm like, give me the booties. I'm like, it's good. I've swum in enough cold water. So yeah, and it's just, you know, just reminding yourself, hey, breathe, relax. You know, I can do this. Because I mean, the swim is still one of the hardest parts, is because, you know, it is cold. You're swimming with the current and then against the current. It's like, it's a little freaky out there, because all of a sudden you'll be with somebody and the next minute they're gone. And you're like, where did they go? But that's how the currents work. You know, if somebody's slightly different, they might be right next to you, but they're gone. So, you know, that's sort of like a little eerie as well sometimes. And the bike is like one of those things, it's hilly. Make sure you have the correct gearing, because you are going to be out of the saddle a lot. So you need like a gearing that's going to work for those hilly conditions. And, you know, practice your descending. There are a couple of tricky corners. It's like, you know, putting your knees into the top tube, getting as low as you can. They're going to stabilize the bike a lot more. But
so having your brakes in good operating condition is important.
Yeah, you know, that's just basics that you should always do. Take care of your bike. The bike will take care of you. That's what I try to tell my athletes, you know. It's like, give it some love and it'll love you back.
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah, it's so important. But it's like, if you are a little more timid on the bike, you know, you can practice that sort of stuff. So it's like important to practice it, but have the right gearing and, you know, go at your pace. I mean, don't like try to like yeehaw through a corner if you're not comfortable with that, because that's going to ruin your race if something happens.
Mm-hmm.
So being prepared is always the best, because it might be only 18 miles, but it'll be one of the hardest 18 miles you'll ride, because there's just no really relief. There's a couple of downhills, but a lot of the times, you know, you've got the power on the pedals. And the run, you know,
Yes.
it's the same sort of thing. You got to prepare with what you're going to face. So you have hills, you have trails, you have sand, and it's not like really nice flat sand, it's deep sand. And then you've got to practice going up the stairs. So, you know, try to incorporate some of that stuff in your training. And it all comes down to also is knowing when to back it off and knowing when to push, because the first half of the course you're going to get rolling because it's quite flat and beautiful scenery, and it's like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then, you know, and that's the shock to the system too, because you've been running on super flat ground and then all of a sudden you hit fairly steep ground. So your heart rate does spike. And, you know, don't be afraid to walk some sections, because I've walked some sections because sometimes it's a lot easier. So, yeah. And I mean, the bottom line is like, have fun. You know, how many people can say that they escaped from Alcatraz? You know, it's still, you know, when people ask me what are my favorite races, you know, yes, I have won Olympic medal. Yes, I have won the Ironman. But when you tell people also that you've done Alcatraz and you swam from Alcatraz, you know, they're like, oh my God. So it's like, it's sort of like something you can get out from your pocket and share with a lot of people, and they'll be excited. So how cool is that? Like, not many triathlons have that, you know, everyone knows the story and the history of Alcatraz.
Well said. Thank you. Yeah. Great classic race. 3 words. Think it out for a few seconds, but 3 words to describe the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon.
It's scary, even for somebody who has won it as many times as me. Embracement. It's like, it's nice to embrace everything that it throws at you. And number 3, it's like, it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Fun. Okay. Great. Scary, embracement, and fun. I like it. All right. If you could race with anyone, who would you like to race on the Escape from Alcatraz course? And you can list anywhere from 2 to 3 to 6 people, male, female, age groupers, pros, alive, dead. Who would you like to race them?
This is easy. Easy peasy. My twin sister, Gabby.
Okay, great.
You know, when we were growing up, she will tell you the times that she's beaten me. I think there's 3 times that she's beaten me in our entire life between running and triathlon. The first time she beat me, we were in 3rd grade. The second time was, she says she beat me because she did the same like 8K race that I did a couple of years later, and she beat my time. So there's 2. Number 3, she beat me in a triathlon because I got disqualified after crossing the line in first because I lost my race number. So she will tell you that she beat me because I got disqualified. So I would love to race with Gabby in the Escape from Alcatraz, just because, you know, we grew up together and it's like, I would love for her to share what the experience of Alcatraz is all about. I mean, I've raced against a lot of pros over the years, but I think it would be pretty cool to do it with my twin sister.
Have you ever raced with her? Did I see you in San Diego or Hawaii, or you've never done Alcatraz with her? She came to Alcatraz.
You know what's so cool is a lot of people don't realize I have a twin.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I've been at races and she's been at races, and there was one race we were at the World Championships. She was racing age group and I was racing professionally, and she was on the elevator with some of my like friends that I run with. And they were like, "Hey, Michellie, how you going?" And she's like, "I'm not Michellie." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever. Ha 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 ha." And she goes, "Seriously, I'm not Michellie." And it was just so funny because like sometimes she'll play with it. Like she'll be like sign autographs and like stuff like that. But it's like, it's those fun stories,
Yeah.
it's like when people don't realize that we are identical twins, but we go through stages where we really look alike. But I mean, physically, when we're running and swimming and biking, we probably look pretty similar, because how can you not when you're built like very similar? So
Yeah.
my weaknesses are her weaknesses.
But
So yeah, it's always fun when,
great.
people are going, "Go, Michellie." And it's like, I'm Gabby.
So how did you start in triathlon? You swam, bike, ran as a kid probably, but what was your first triathlon like as a woman?
Actually, I grew up horse riding. So
Oh, there you go.
hence the Giddy Up. My business is Giddy Up Coaching, because my first passion was horse riding, and it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about discipline and dedication. And then my high school run coach suggested I just do this swim run called the Champion of Sydney, and we swam in the Sydney Harbour and then ran over the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I grew up swimming not in a like competition environment, but my mum was always like, we lived on a property that had a lot of water around it, so we all had to learn how to swim when we were very, very young. So we weren't really like fearful of water. And then I did a little bit of running in high school. My talent identification, if you'll believe this, was race walking. It wasn't like running or triathlon, it was race walking. I'm like, no, I would prefer to be a runner. And then my high school coach took me into triathlon. Thank goodness, because triathlon has given me so much. So yeah, my high school run coach, John White, signed me up for my first race, and I really didn't look back. It was like my first race, I think I won my age group. I think I was top 10. And then my first triathlon, I think I was second overall. So, it was like one of those things that for some reason, swimming, bike and running was something that I was destined to do.
Awesome. You've done so much in the short course, the Olympic distance, all those distances, Alcatraz. Motivation. What can you give newcomers for motivation? What keeps you motivated? You love it, but what else? Is it giving it away, coaching, and
it's a great question, because I get asked that a lot. Like, I've been racing since 1988, and people always ask me, well, how do you keep going? And it's like the pandemic's like made it that I haven't even raced in a year and a half so far. My last race was the World Championships in Lausanne, Switzerland. So what's my motivation? It's not like I'm going to PB anymore, let's face it. I mean, I would love to say that I'll be able to do a PB, but I mean, I create new PBs. So each year, and I think this is super important, not to live in the past, but keep living in the now. And it's like, I think that's the biggest mistake like so many athletes make. And I try to have my athletes like reset everything that they've done in the past. Okay, come January 1, you're going to reset new goals and new PBs and new functional threshold power. Because I think it's important, because it's like, as I said, you can't go back. You can only keep moving forward. And like each year, and I think it's important, doesn't matter who you are, it's like reset those goals. And yes, sometimes you're not going to be as fast as you were the year before, but that shouldn't stop you from motivating yourself in other ways. It could be, well, this year I'd like to run 12 miles for the first time ever. Or it might be like, I want to go ride my bike for 90 minutes for the first time ever. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like just having these small little challenges will keep you motivated.
So your mentality is just always change it up and stay positive.
Yeah, and definitely stay positive. I mean, we all get down about little things. I mean, that's because it's personal to us, but it's not only like, remembering that, but it's also having somewhere to go. And that's been the hardest thing in this whole pandemic, right? It's like, where are we going? Is that race going to happen? And I've just told my athletes, If you decide that you're going to do this particular race, you be 100% committed. There's no, well, it may not happen, it will happen. It's like, no, it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay, because that's preparation for down the road. And as hard as it's been when, you know, races get canceled at the last minute,
yes,
it's like, as a coach, you know, I've tried to tell everyone, hey, let's just back it down a little bit. And then, you know, in a couple of weeks, if you have a race, you'll be ready to go anyway. But don't keep putting your hand in the fire when you don't have to, because if you don't have somewhere to go, putting your hand in the fire is like a waste.
but talk about the neck up stuff when things get hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about triathlon, right? It's a life lesson. Every time you go tie your shoelaces, every time you Velcro down your shoes, every time you put on that swim cap, there's a life lesson some way, somehow, you know, and then you go to a race and it's even bigger life lesson. You know, you have to make decisions on the spot. It's like, how committed are you? And, you know, a lot of times those decisions will reflect how you are in life. So it's a nice way to be able to practice life skills. That's the way I look at the mental aspect of it. Yeah, I can. And I've often, you know, get athletes, oh, I don't really want to do this. And I'm like, well, you don't have to. It's your choice. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. You know, you choose to do what you do. And, you know, sometimes we choose wisely and sometimes we choose poorly, but that's okay, because you learn more from not achieving your goals than sometimes when you achieve your goals. You know, one of the biggest questions that I've got, but you didn't win a gold medal in Sydney. I'm like, but that's okay. That wasn't my destiny. Yeah, I would have loved to have won a gold medal, but a silver medal is pretty darn good as well. And it's like, you know, I got that question a lot. Even we were sitting down and we were doing debriefing, and one of the major swim coaches in Australia came and sat and talked to all the Australian team in triathlon. And he looks at me, he goes, Michellie, even you're disappointed, right, that you got the silver? And I'm like, excuse me? I was like, are you kidding me? And I mean, that's the difference. I think with my attitude compared to somebody else's attitude. Yeah, I'm going to put myself out there and, you know, do the best I can on the day. But the bottom line, as long as I can walk away knowing that I did my best, and I mean, that's the number one lesson for anyone. Knowing you can walk away that you did your best. And, you know, if you didn't, then you have to like admit that and go, well, next time, you know, I've got to make sure I do everything I can. If this is what I want to do, then let's make it happen. My message number 2 is have fun. You know, don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, yeah, we're serious. Triathletes are serious. We're committed. We're motivated. But like, it's time sometimes nice to stop and like appreciate what we're able to do and realize that it shouldn't be a hard slog all the time, that you should have some sort of passion and happiness that comes from it. And, you know, even if it's not your best day, don't think about like what you did wrong. Think about all the things you did right. Exactly.
You mentioned John White, your track coach, but is there a person in particular that inspired you, or what would you say your early mentors? Who do you give props to?
Well, you know, it's sort of like, there's a couple of people that inspired me. They probably didn't realize they were inspiring me because they were so negative. But that's, again, you know, turning something around and making it work. Sure. I had like a high school teacher tell me that I was a girl and girls just get boyfriends and they don't continue with sport. And I'm like, screw you, buddy. You know, I'm going to prove you wrong. And like right before the Olympics, I had this guy do this whole article on why I wasn't Olympic medal material. And it's like, okay, you know, you can write it, but I'm going to still do my best. And, you know, that's going to fire me up. It's not going to like put me down. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, the people who inspired me, my mom, you know, she was divorced very early and she had 4 girls. And, you know, yeah, we call her Crazy Maureen and we love her to death. But, you know, she was always taught all of us that, you know, doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you've been, you can always try to be better. And I think that was like the biggest motto. And then, you know, Paula Newby-Fraser, she's the reason why that I won the Ironman Hawaii. You know, she coached me to that. And the biggest lesson she gave to me was like, just treat it as another training day. You know, and it's true. It is. A race is just another training day. So, you know, there's all sorts of, and of course my twin sister, she taught me about being competitive, but being humble, because I hated losing to her. But, you know, it was, you know, one of those things where, you know, I always had a best friend, you know. So it's like, there's been a lot of people that have come and gone in my life. You know, some of my best training partners, you know, there's always been a team, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. That's another good motto that I sort of like live by, because triathlon, yeah, when you're out there, it's just about you, but there's a whole support team, whether it's husbands, wives, kids, you know, training partners, coaches. It's like everyone's like wants you to do what you want to do. And it's good to have people like that in your life, because it makes it more fun. You know, they share your success and your failures, right? Because, you know, we don't always like cross the finish line in first, but that doesn't mean that we can't have fun and enjoy it.
Yep. Depending upon who you ask, triathlon's 45 to 50 years old, and you've been doing it 33 years. As a woman, how do you feel you know, we were at 8% women in 89, and I think we're at like 27, 28% now. How do you feel about women in the sport of triathlon? You've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I say to people, never stop fighting. You know, it's like until we have 100%, till we totally dominate. No, but seriously, it's like, you know, definitely as I grew up, one of the sports that I loved so much, triathlon, had so much equality. But then there was a lot of, there was things that happened that people may not know the history of little things that have happened along the way that we've really fought really hard. And I was watching an interview the other day, and one of the younger athletes, elite athletes, basically said, no, I'm pretty happy with how our sport is. And I'm like, no, don't be happy, because there's still things that we can fix. And I always tell people, it's like, you know, how we're treated from day one when we're born, how a girl to a boy is treated is very different. It's like how my mum like embraced, you know, with me, just get a husband, get a rich husband. You know what I mean? That was like the traditional thing to do. Just get a rich husband to take care of you. Yeah, mum, whatever. But, you know, that's what was ingrained, you know, that a husband would take care of you. So it's like, and with triathlon, it's like there still needs to be equality. My biggest thing is, yes, triathlon has done a fantastic job, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean that we can sit back and not keep fighting, because there's lots of things that go on. I mean, you know, even through the years with sponsors, it's like we would get men's apparel and not female apparel, you know? And it's like when I grew up, there wasn't there was pink, but not a lot of like empowering pink. So that's why I embrace pink so much now, because now there's like magentas and like these beautiful dark pink colors. So it's like, I tell people, it's like, hey, you know what? Sometimes life at that moment pulls us away, but as a mother, you have to look after yourself first before you can look after it. And being a mother doesn't mean you have to have kids. You know, being a mother is like almost like being someone in society that people are going to look up to. That's how I mean, I don't have kids, but I love kids, and I like have so many of my friends have awesome kids, but it's like, I still think the female, it's like we can be role models in so many ways and we don't even know it. And part of that role model message is making sure that we continually push the boundaries of what women can do, not what women can't do, what women can do.
Yeah, you're a born leader. You are a
Thank
born
you.
leader. My sister in sport. Can you imagine life without triathlon? And what would you be if you were not a professional triathlete / coach? Where would you be? Accountant, real estate? What would you
You
be
know,
doing?
I'm a tri geek. I admit it. I totally admit it, right? Triathlon is my blood. I've been doing it for so long. And it's like, some people don't like that, but they don't like being a tri geek. I love being a tri geek. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What would I have been doing? I don't know. It's like I grew up riding horses, and I brought that back into my life, and I continue to ride horses now. I'm a qualified school teacher, so as much as I've never really taught in an actual program, I feel my degree has given me so much in triathlon that I've used it many, many times. I don't know if you ask me when you're growing up, it's so hard to know. And triathlon keeps taking me to places that I never thought, like the Paralympics.
Sure.
Like, how cool is that I got to guide a sight impaired athlete and we win the gold medal in Rio?
The best.
It's like, who would have ever thought that? And now I see Andy Potts, who's another Escape from Alcatraz winner, about to guide a US para-triathlete, hopefully in Tokyo.
Yep.
So there's so many things that, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, because triathlon is like, I'm a triathlon geek. It's like, it's in my blood. I don't know, I don't like to think about what I would be doing. I get asked it a lot and I'm like, I really don't know. I can't complain. I have such a great life and done so much, and my sport continues to give to me. Like in so many ways, I coach the UCSD tri team, and I love it because here we are to have kids that have never done triathlon, and then we've had kids that are like super, super competitive at triathlon. And it's so great to see everyone in together. That's what I love about triathlon. Like, let's face it, triathlon's one of the only sports where it doesn't matter if you're a professional or you're a first timer. We're all in this together. How cool is that?
Oh, that's very cool. Those are some lucky kids at UC San Diego. So a moment ago, you mentioned Alcatraz. Scary, embracement, and fun. 3 words. Now I'm going to ask you to describe yourself in 3 words. You can think it through a few seconds. We'll give you a Jeopardy call. But 3 words.
How would I describe myself in 3 words?
Yes.
Super competitive, for sure.
Super competitive.
Number 2 would probably be, I'm actually quite shy. People don't think that, but I'm actually quite shy. But when you start talking about stuff that I love, then, the shyness goes away. 3 would be not what probably other people think of me, but more of how I think of myself.
Yep.
Grateful. I think I'm grateful. Like, it's sort of like ingrained into me that I'm grateful that everything that I've got to do in my life.
Yeah, the standoff shyness sometimes is misinterpreted as other things.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I get told that a lot. And I think there is a 4th word though. I'm pretty hard lined. You see, what you see is what you get. It's like, whether I'm
authentic, genuine. Yeah.
Whether I'm coaching, it's like, you hire me as a coach and you tell me what you want to achieve, I'm going to be right there behind you, making sure that you're on the right path.
Well, as open and honest as you are, they say you're only as sick as your secrets, and you don't have any secrets. You're wide open. So I guess that means you're pretty damn healthy. Okay, so let's keep rolling here. So the global pandemic you mentioned has been, a challenge, of course, but thinking and making the lemonade out of the lemons, you made it positive, and you found Zoom chats to be positive with your coaching. What other nuggets have you been able to pull out of the pandemic for the last 14 months?
Well, I'm like everyone else. I have the good days and the bad days because, it's like what drives me drives everyone else, And as I said, the number one thing is like when somebody takes something away, what's the number one thing that you want, right? So I think what I've learned is to be a little bit more patient and having athletes be a little bit more patient. And for me, it's been great as a coach because, during the season, it's like prepare, race, prepare, race, prepare, race. But because we haven't had that race, we've got to prepare a lot. So we've really worked on everyone's weaknesses. You know, we've been able to do a lot of functional strength that we may not have been able to do for a long period of time. And, you know, just changing that up and working on that functional component, I think has been brilliant, because I see how strong everyone has come out of it. So, you know, that's something that I've really, and, you know, it's a way to find out, you know, who's really passionate about this sport. You know, those that are passionate are going to stick through it. And those that aren't, maybe that's not the course that they should have been on anyway. So definitely, you know, getting athletes to understand, you know, what are your goals? What do you really want to do? Okay. Is it about racing? Is it about the training component? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? And then also what I've learned a lot about is never take anything for granted. You know, we took our sport for granted for a long time. Yeah. And, you know, it's going to just make us appreciate, you know, all those awesome people. And, you know, we've lost a lot of race directors, and we've lost a lot of people in our sport. A lot of jobs have been lost. I mean, coaching businesses have been tough for sure, you know, trying to keep everyone motivated. But the bottom line is we're all this one big family. And there's so many ways that we can still connect. And, you know, I live to race, so I can't wait to get out there and race against and actually like smell it and feel it and embrace it again. I mean, that's what excites me. And it's like really, really got me to realize that that's what I love doing. Yep. You know, I love getting up and turning up to the race and getting our race numbers put on and the sunscreen. And, you know, you like in Australia, we call it goanna oil. You guys call it like a deep heat, you know, that menthol smell that like just at a race, right? All that sort of stuff. It like, you know, what this pandemic has really done is make us appreciate that every day we should embrace.
Without a doubt. Talk about horses, the dogs, give everyone an idea of how passionate you are about your four-legged friends.
Oh yeah, so in the past, I have named my dogs after my world championships. Yeah. So I won a world championship in Muskoka, Canada. So
What kind of dogs?
I had miniature pinchers, and now I have a little Frenchie. But I love mini pins. I mean, there's just so much I love about them. So I had a Muskoka because I won a world championship in Muskoka. I had a Manny because I won a world championship in Manchester. And then I had a Tinkerbell because I wasn't allowed to call her Sydney, because then I would have got the Tinkerbell curse. But then I feel like I got the Tinkerbell curse because when I raced in Sydney, I had Troy Lee Designs paint my helmet. So I had Muskoka on one side and Manny on the other side, and they were fighting over a world championship banner. But I didn't have Tinky. So I got second because Tinky cursed me because she wasn't on my helmet. And then, you know, just rescued a couple of dogs over the last couple of years. Wow. Just giving, you know, older dogs and dogs that have been mistreated a second chance. So right now we've had 2 miniature pincher rescues, the last, and then I've always loved Frenchies, and I know they're the in thing, but I've always loved them. So now I have a little tenacious little Frenchie called Zoe.
Zoe?
Yeah.
All right.
She's like, everyone thinks she's miniature because she's only like 15 pounds. She's like Peter Pan. She never grew up. Yeah. Oh. And then horses, you know, I grew up riding horses. I gave up horses to do triathlon, and I promised myself that when I finished my professional career, I would get a horse. So right now I have Rafina. I do dressage, and people are like, well, what's dressage? Well, you have to learn a test, and you're in an arena, and there's letters all, and basically you get to dance in that arena. That's a good way to describe it. So yeah, so for me, like one person said to me, Michellie, how come you like didn't go through that issue of transitioning from professional athlete to regular athlete? And she thinks it's totally the horses. And definitely, yes, horses are probably my therapy. When I go to the barn every day, it's definitely my therapy. So it keeps me sane. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, you know, when you grow up with animals, it's hard not to have them in your life. And my husband Robin loves animals as well, and he's taken some fantastic photos at horse shows
Yes.
that have blown up. I don't really have any triathlon stuff like photos in my house. It's all like horse and dogs.
Yeah, I love the photos Robin posts. Those, I think there was one purple outfit with a top hat. It was really awesome. Well, thank you so much for so long being a friend to me, a friend of the sport, a friend of the Escape from Alcatraz. You've always been a great ambassador for the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon and triathlon in general. Like I said in the very beginning of this hour ago, you've done it all, from the short course to the long course to guiding a blind athlete, coaching authentically through passion and experience. We thank you so much for.
No, what am I going to do now? You just told everyone I've done everything.
Well, you know how to wrap it up. You're a pro. So thank you. And we look forward to seeing you back at the Escape from Alcatraz, either with a number on your body or a microphone in your hand or whatever capacity.
Thank you so much for letting me share my story. And, you know, the Escape is definitely in my heart for sure. So, yeah, it's, you know, anyone that's thinking about it, don't think, just do. It's like one of those races, you know, it's like there's a lot of races out there, but there's only one Escape.
Well put. Well said. Thank you.